Welcome to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Be warned, the discussions in this podcast will contain detailed spoilers. For spoiler-free reviews of newly released films, please check out our channel Reviews Without Remorse on YouTube and VidMe. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the show. And welcome back to Reviews Without Remorse. As always, this is your good buddy Joe, along with my heterosexual life mate Dave. What's going on, buddy?
Sup?
On today's episode, the new Justice League trailer just dropped. We will discuss, and we will get into our main topic this week, which is Iron Man 2, the second installment in the, technically, is that the second Marvel Universe entry, really?
It was technically the third. The second one was The Incredible Hulk. Iron Man 2 was 3. And then it was, you had Iron Man 2, and then Thor, and then Captain America, and then finally Avengers.
We have to be ready. You, me, the others. There's an attack coming from far away.
Not coming, Bruce. It's already here.
There's a couple things I want to say about this. One, I've never done a reaction video before, and this was the first time I watched a trailer and really wished I did do a reaction video, because frankly I think it would have been priceless. As I'm watching this trailer, first of all, I'm saying to myself, right off the bat, I'm predicting this is going to be right in line with Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad. If you like those two movies, I think this will be right up your alley. I think it's going to be more of the same. I don't see any change in tone. I don't see anything different visually. It's dark. Everything is night. Everything is bleak. Everything is gray. The other thing I noticed right away was it didn't take the trailer long before they said, okay, we got to get the group together. The time is now. Okay. Right off the bat, Arthur Curry, the Aquaman. Then the Cyborg. Then Flash. And I'm saying to myself, okay, that looks really familiar. There's the Suicide Squad all over again with the intros. So, yeah, all right. So I'm saying it's Suicide Squad all over again. And of course, as the action scenes are going, and I'm saying, okay, well, this is going to be visually, it's going to be satisfying visually. The same way I said, as much as I hated Batman v Superman, I hated Suicide Squad worse because there was just nothing happening. Like, there was nothing going on. And whereas Batman v Superman, at least I got to see Batman punching Superman, whatever. And I feel like this is going to be more of the same. You're not going to be bored for 2 hours, but you're going to walk out and say, what the hell just happened? And of course, the kicker of the trailer is they played Come Together.
My turn.
Come together
Right now, over me.
As soon as that happened, and this is why I say I wish I recorded my reaction. When that happened, I sat here and I went, they don't fucking learn. I'm telling you, this studio is the most incorrigible group of idiots I've ever seen. They got all that backlash about Suicide Squad. They're going to do it again with this. Now they're going to throw in even from the same time period as the stuff they threw into Suicide Squad. That song they threw in. I'm like, really? Wow. I mean, it's almost like a big middle finger. Like, oh, you didn't like the first two? Well, you're going to get more of the same. So sit down and eat it, which we're going to do, which we're going to go and we're going to watch it, and I'm going to pay money to see this. I'm looking at it and man, they're really going over. I'll tell you this, and you're probably not going to like this comment.
Oh boy, maybe. You never know.
The original Dark Knight comic, the original graphic novel, The Dark Knight, I'm starting to think, as great as that book might have been, that has done such damage to the future of the DC, at least the DC Cinematic Universe, because everything now is, like, ever since then, everything has to be dark, bleak, gritty, everything. And it's like, I'm really starting to feel like that it was like that comic now, that book, people get the wrong messages. They learn the wrong lessons. It doesn't mean everything has to be like that. You don't have to out dark the other guys. I don't quite get it. But yeah, anyway, that I'll hand it off to you. That's pretty much my sum up. I'm predicting at this point another Batman v Superman. The tone will be almost identical. I feel like it'll be almost seamless. Again, if you like that one, you'll love this. That's my prediction. And maybe I'm gonna be wrong. I still think Wonder Woman might be a little different. But that's a different discussion. But right now, this Justice League looks right in line with Batman v Superman.
Well, I mean, it's directed by Zack Snyder, so why not? In defense of The Dark Knight Returns, the comic book, the graphic novel, the classic by Frank Miller, he at least used color in some of the panels. Yeah, the early stuff was all bleak and stuff like that, but once Batman started coming back in, as the series progressed, it got a little more colorful, got hopeful, okay? When Superman appeared, it was Superman in his actual colors, not this drab shit that he got everybody wearing. You know what I'm saying? Also, dear Zack Snyder, you know there are other colors in the world besides blue, black, gray, and orange. Do you know that? That's what I want to know, because I didn't see any of that. I saw the Flash, and they put the lightning on the Flash. But no, of course, they had to make it the blue lightning. It had to be realistic lightning. It can't be the yellow comic lightning that everybody fucking knows. No, you had to go with just the stupid... Everything's gotta be dark and gritty, and Batman can be raped in this world. Ugh. Nothing in that. The only thing that did for me was made me say, you know what? I like the guy that they got for Aquaman. I thought he did a great job. He looks like he's enjoying himself. He looks like he's gonna have some nice personality, and he's very physical. So I think that he can actually pull that off. Other than that, I feel nothing. I honestly feel nothing. I look at this and I'm like, it's what I expected. My favorite thing that came out of this was somebody did this thing called the Avengers React to the Justice League trailer, and obviously it's a fan because they make it seem like, oh no, the Avengers are all worried and stuff like that. It's like, no, the Avengers have nothing to be worried about. The Avengers right now have nothing to fucking be worried about.
No.
This actually made me less excited about Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I can see why that would be.
Because it's like, oh, yeah, we learned our lessons from Batman v Superman. It's like, this trailer says to me, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. You didn't learn a damn thing. You learned that I'm Zack Snyder, and I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want with these characters and eat a dick.
That's how I'm feeling, too. I'm feeling not only has no one learned lessons, but it's almost like they're going to really jam it down your throat. It seems like instead of changing a little bit, he's going to double down and say, "Oh no, you're going to love this. You want this."
Yep, just like you said. Oh, you didn't like that shit? Too bad. It's for dinner.
Pretty much, yeah, right. Exactly. You don't like it, you're going to go hungry.
Yep. All I have to say is, if Ant-Man 2 makes more money than Batman v Superman, you guys. Oh, you guys.
Yeah.
Can we move on, please? Because it's like, I actually watched it again before we recorded because I wanted to remind myself. That's why when we first got on the call, I was humming "Come Together." You know,
I tell you too, incidentally, I'm kind of, one of the other things that really stood out for me was like, I was shocked at how poor the CGI looked in some spots. Like, the CGI looked really weak. And I mean, even that final shot of Aquaman riding on top of the Batmobile, like this was supposed to be all badass, and he jumps out and whatever. I just thought that looked, it almost looked so hokey. It was kind of more, it reminded me of something you would have seen in Sin City, as opposed to this, which is, I think, supposed to be realistic. I mean, Sin City was meant to look comic bookish, and it was, again, totally done in a studio against green screens and, to get a certain effect. This, I thought, had that same feel, and I thought it was kind of odd, like, it just didn't work. And even some of the shots of Cyborg.
Oh, he looks terrible.
He looked terrible. Like, his face kind of showing behind. I mean, it almost looked like he was like an old matte painting. Like, he's standing behind the visual of the suit or whatever. Like, and it didn't jive at all. It's like it's almost like very well this guy's not. He's not wearing anything. He's probably just standing there with like the little dots all over him so they could CGI on the suit later. And it just very much looks it.
No, nothing in there gives me any hope. No hope. All hope is lost. This experiment is going to fail, or at least I really don't want it to fail, but it sure feels like it's going to.
Look, is it going to fail? Yes and no. It'll. This one will underperform and not do very well, and they'll probably just say they'll throw their arms up and start all over again. Well, actually,
Yeah, that's just what they need.
This series needs a reboot. And again, I hate bashing on the DC movies. I mean, again, I said it in our very first episode. We had incredible Superman movies, incredible Batman movies. We had a bunch of incredible Batman movies. Look, they took a shot, they rolled the dice, and went down a dark alley, pun intended, and it's not paying off. I don't see. That's not my idea of comic book movies. You know, here's the thing too. It's almost like how I criticized modern music. Like when I hear what the kids are listening to today, and I'm really going to show my age here with that comment.
Get off my lawn.
I mean, when I hear what they're all listening to today, one song just rolls right into the next one, and I don't know who's who, and it all sounds exactly the same. When I was a kid, and I was making a mixtape off of what was on the radio, you had, like, Blondie, Pink Floyd, Billy Joel. It was all different. Like, it was not all the same stuff. When I look at what Marvel's doing, right? Marvel takes each property and says, okay, look, here we're going to do a period movie from World War II. Here we're going to do a film about a doctor. Here we're going to do a tech guy. Here we're going to do a kid in high school. And they sort of approach each one, you know, kind of from where that character's coming from. The DC movies are all, it's like, if it's Batman, if it's Superman, if it's Wonder Woman, it's all going to look the same. It's all exactly the same. So if you don't like this particular flavor, don't look to a different hero to get what you want. It's it. That's it. This is it's coming out of the same conveyor belt. It's all the same. If you don't like it, tough titties. And you know, I don't know. It's not what I would do, DC. Just not what I would do if it was my franchise.
I hate having to agree with you, but I am going to agree with you. I'm also going to say that I think that we're spending a hell of a lot more time on this than it deserves.
Iron Man 2, the second film in the Iron Man series, again directed by Jon Favreau and starring Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark / Iron Man, and it got mixed reviews, if I remember right. I mean, the general population kind of felt like didn't live up to the first one. It was kind of a letdown. I have a lot of good and bad thoughts about it. More good than bad, I think. So hopefully I'll be the guy kind of defending this one a little bit, because I think it's a pretty fine follow-up, frankly. But, yeah, a lot of that magic is not there, but...
Well, let's get a little backstory going on here, and then we can get at it. The first thing you have to know about this movie is the success of Iron Man, the success and the semi-success of Incredible Hulk is what spawned these sequels, and basically jump-started the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. The end of the first Iron Man, where there's... Nick Fury. There's Nick Fury. You're part of a bigger world. I want to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative and stuff like that. That was thrown in there with their fingers crossed. Like, seriously, with their fingers crossed. It's like, this is the Easter egg that hopefully will hatch into something beautiful. And when it did, now it was like, okay, well, now we have to actually build something. And the problem is that whereas Iron Man was a standalone movie and didn't really talk about outside of it, now all of a sudden you had to kind of start building up to this big confrontation in the Avengers. So the way Marvel used to work was you had Ike Perlmutter, the CEO of Marvel, and this was just about the time when Marvel and Disney were coming together. Marvel was being bought by Disney. He put together a team of creatives from the comic book industry, like Joe Quesada and a couple of other people, and they were called the Creative Committee. And this Creative Committee basically dictated and corrected and everything else how the cinematic universe was supposed to go. This Creative Committee is the reason why the division between television and movies is now permanently split. The way Feige works now is, okay, you can write what you want, we just need to have this happen, this happen, this happen, this happen. And that's it. That's all he says, and then he walks away. And everything else he usually leaves up to him. The Creative Committee, however, will come in and say, no, this way, this way, this way, so on and so forth. And I feel like watching Iron Man 2 is the first example of where this Creative Committee, and not just having Feige be in charge, is where the problems really begin. Because as I was watching the movie starts off strong. I feel. It starts off strong. It's like, oh, okay, this is interesting. The idea that Tony's father worked with another guy when making the arc reactor, and okay. Like, you know, this is the anti-Tony Stark that we're talking about here in Ivan Vanko. the genius, but not a billionaire, just in a different situation. It's like, that's another interesting idea and an interesting way to go. But then and people are going to hate me for saying the following thing. Then they introduce Black Widow. And I kind of feel that that's where the things start falling off the rail on Iron Man. Because Black Widow, Nick Fury, and trying to, get into this whole background of this complicated universe and stuff like that, it was overdone.
Let me ask you this: which part when they introduce her? Because she comes in really early on in the film. But go ahead, like which part are you talking about?
When it's revealed that she's S.H.I.E.L.D., in my personal opinion, the revelation that she was S.H.I.E.L.D. shouldn't have happened until the end. Okay, there should have been a denouement at the end where it was revealed that she was spying on him for Nick Fury. It became part of a bigger plot that I don't feel worked. I feel like Nick Fury came in and here's your father's old stuff. There's the answer to your big question. And it kind of took away a bit from Tony's character. Him trying to figure out, oh my God, this palladium stuff is killing me. I need to find a replacement. He didn't find the answer. The answer was given to him by Nick Fury, and that kind of annoyed me a little bit.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there too, and that was. Because it's funny, when you said the introduction of Black Widow, and I had to clarify, because again, what I really liked was the part when that reveal happens, when she suits up and starts kicking some ass. If that was the reveal, that would have been awesome. I mean, I really liked that part, but I totally agree with you. That part, the second he shows up at the donut shop,
sir, I'm going to have to ask you to exit the donut.
That's when something feels wrong. That's the first time something sort of feels off, and it feels really like a rewrite happened and somebody jumped in and had to throw a scene in there where we clarify everything, get things back on track. Oh, this thing with Tony being sick, let's fix that because that's not going anywhere. So this really felt like an afterthought, and it was. I totally agree it was a mistake to show her in the suit at that moment. Wrong. You should have saved that for the end, and I feel like that was probably the plan all along.
Mm-hmm. I agreed. She shouldn't have suited up until she shouldn't have suited up to the end. She should have. In fact, that whole thing where she basically takes Happy down with the scissors around the legs and stuff like that. She should have just been shown to I could kind of handle myself and not really kicked his ass the way that she did. It should have been unassuming. Like at the end when she tells Happy, let's go, and they go, and she suits up, and for the first time come out. What a fucking impact that would have been, because when she finally suits up, it's like, okay, here comes the ass kicking, and to comic book fans, we'd be like, oh boy, this is gonna be great, but to the audience, it would have been freaking awesome. It'd have been like, what the hell is with this chick? And then all of a sudden, wham! And it'd been like, whoa, what the fuck?
Agreed. Yeah.
That would have blown audiences through the roof.
Yeah, I agree. That is absolutely. The problem, I tell you what, I'm going to back up and I'm going to talk about what I like about it before I start getting on board with what's wrong, because I totally agree. That I almost feel like that whole part, if you took that out, you got a much stronger film.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking as I was watching it. It's like, this isn't as bad as I remember it. And then the S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff starts happening. It's like, oh yeah, that was it.
Right, exactly, yeah. Well, let me say this. I think overall, Iron Man 2 is a solid follow-up. I think the tone, for the most part, stays exactly the same. Like, if you like the first one, this is like a thing you could sort of do a binge weekend on, where I feel like if you watch the first two in a row, you'll go from one right into two without missing a beat.
Yeah.
The casting in this film is awesome. I really think that's kind of an underrated part of this film. The casting was terrific. Sam Rockwell, awesome. And he's a guy. He's a guy that kind of snuck up on me because I'd see him in things over the years, and I remember thinking who's he friends with that he's famous? Because he's got no charisma, no personality whatsoever. I'm sure I'm sure he did good in acting class, but he never seemed to have any charisma, I thought. But then as I saw him in different things, and the way he can actually sort of carry certain things, really good. And when you see him on stage, kind of being the Tony Stark wannabe, but he's kind of mincing around and looking like a jerk at the same time. He hits that mark perfectly. He knows how to do that. You know what I mean? I mean, he really nailed it. The scene where he brings the weapons to Rhodey.
This is the FN 2000 from Belgium. It makes something better than waffles. beautiful. But I can tell this isn't disco enough for you, so I'm gonna put it right here. We're looking at a Milcor 40mm grenade launcher. Tear gas, smoke, hippie control. You're tough. Let me tell you something. Size does matter. Don't let anyone tell you different. This is an M134 762 minigun, 6 individual barrels, the torso taker, powder maker. Our boys in uniform call it Uncle Gazpacho or Puff the Magic Dragon. Okay. These are the Cubans, baby. These are the Cohibas, the Monte Cristos. This is a kinetic kill sidewinder vehicle with a secondary cyclotrimethylene trinitramine RDX burst. It's capable of busting the bunker under the bunker you just busted. If it were any smarter, it'd write a book that would make Ulysses look like it was written in crayon. And it would read it to you. This is my Eiffel Tower. This is my Rachmaninoff's third, my Pieta. It's completely elegant, it's bafflingly beautiful, and it's capable of reducing the population of any standing structure to zero. I call it the ex-wife.
Just perfect, just perfect. And again, that was sort of right after that scene, you know, where they get off track at the donut shop, and it sort of pulled you back into it, like pulled you back into the film, because it was a really great scene. I think Mickey Rourke is excellent. I think he was kind of underused,
Yes.
Very
much so.
Yeah, underused, underutilized, and they throw him a lot of clunky dialogue, which I still to this day don't quite understand. I still don't get the bird thing. I kept waiting the whole time. I want my bird. I want my bird. And I'm like, what? And I kept thinking there was going to be some payoff, like the bird had something he needed, you know what I mean, or something or other, but it never did. But anyway, he was really good. I thought he was an excellent villain. I mean, he really was awesome. I thought when he shows up at the racetrack with the electric whips and stuff, that's good. I mean, the action
is good stuff.
Is good. The action there was phenomenal. So I think all of the action scenes actually are excellent. I think not enough, you could argue, but what you get is really damn good. You know, the car racing scene was awesome, and I think the finale is great right up until they kind of get to the last bit where they're in that big greenhouse. And then it kind of gets a little claustrophobic, and it starts to lose its momentum. But the stuff leading up to that, the flying all around the World's Fair and stuff, good stuff. I mean, it was pretty excellent. I mean, again, you went from the climax from the first one, where it was just him versus Ironmonger.
Ironmonger, him versus himself, basically.
Yeah, he's and I thought that was good, but this was better. It was him against like the other Iron Man at first, and then, you know, all the other drones. I thought that was damn good. I'd rather see him go against multiple Iron Mans instead of just one big Iron Man. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yep.
The part with Rhodey becoming the Iron Patriot or War Machine, whatever.
War Machine.
Kind of okay. I kind of thought we could have held back on that a little bit. And incidentally, I kind of felt like the movie sort of falls into that trap where it's like, this is Iron Man 2, so I guess we need to have 2 Iron Men. Oh, all right. I guess that's, that's fine.
I don't think that's what they were going for, but yeah, sure, I can see that. And they had to fulfill the promise. Granted, Don Cheadle didn't make the promise, but in the first Iron Man, when he was going off to his final battle, there's Terrence Howard in the garage, and the camera pans around, and behind him, there it is the Mark II. He looks at it, he looks at the camera, and says, "Next time, baby."
Yep. Yeah.
That
very
they
good.
Had to fulfill that promise.
And again, I think we talked about this at another point in a different. I really do wish that they brought back the original Rhodey. I thought he was really good, and I thought Don Cheadle was okay. But he's a little, I don't know, like he seems not as fun as the other guy. And again, he's not supposed to be. He's supposed to be this more serious one. But I don't know. I thought the other guy just pulled it off better. And I don't know. Maybe just like I said, I was never really a big Don Cheadle fan.
Oh, sir, we're gonna have to disseminate Boogie Nights sometime and just and really go off on the love of Don Cheadle. Even better reason to do it. I you know what? Honestly, I didn't really care one way or the other. I kind of liked Don Cheadle, and I thought that their banter together was good.
Our priority is to get the Iron Man weapon turned over to the United States of America.
I am Iron Man. The suit and I are one.
First of all, there's too many plots. There's kind of too many subplots to sort of keep track of. And I think that's why, like I said, you sort of get that scene wedged in the middle, you know, at the donut shop. And it was like, okay. But now again, the whole thing sort of felt watered down because, again, this was sort of the, like the big, oh my God, in the first one, you know, Nick Fury showing up at the end. Now it's kind of like he just sort of pops up at a donut shop where Tony's hanging out and they go sit inside and they're just talking over coffee. At that point, it felt like they were trying to sort of pull everything in together to try to tighten things back up because they had gotten off track. And again, they solve one problem with one shot.
No, it didn't solve the problem. It was a temporary fix. So
right.
they didn't have to keep. Yeah.
But again, then you have the reveal of Black Widow. That was not the right way to do that. Just have her mosey in with the suit on and sit down? No.
Although it was a great shot.
It was a great shot, sure enough, yeah. I'll go back and watch that again. But, I mean, again, but this reveal, as opposed to the real reveal that comes later when she's kicking serious ass, that was the payoff, not this. I mean, so you watered down, you know, your payoff later, I thought.
Mm.
Yeah, it actually kind of reminded me of one of the criticisms of the Star Wars films, and this is Red Letter Media where I got this from, so, you know, I got to give credit where it's due. You know, they make the case that...
Oh, hail Mr. Plinkett!
Great, awesome. Seriously, and why are we oversaturated with so many movie reviewers? Blame him, because he made it look so fun. But he makes the good point that in the first Star Wars, you had one finale. The finale, all points converge on the attack on the Death Star. By Empire, you had the escape from Cloud City over here, and the lightsaber battle with Luke and Vader over there. By Jedi, you had 3 climaxes. You had the battle on Endor, the attack on the new Death Star, and Luke and Vader fighting with the Emperor in the Emperor's room. When The Phantom Menace comes along, now they had 4 going on. And again, you're realizing that Lucas is really trying to... He's looking for quantity over quality. Like, he figures if he just throws more stuff at you, it's better. You had, I don't even remember exactly what it was, but you had the lightsaber fight.
You had a lightsaber fight, you had the battle in space against the Trade Federation thing, you had Jar Jar's misadventures, and you had Padme trying to get to the center of the palace.
Exactly, right. So there's literally 4 different climaxes happening simultaneously. And I think that was the mistake they make here, too, where they you know, it's the second film, we have to up the ante a little bit and do it a little bit bigger and better. So they just threw more stuff. And I think that was the mistake. The mistake was too many plots happening at once, too many bad guys. I mean, you got Mickey Rourke over here, underutilized. You got Sam Rockwell, he's a bad guy. You got the conflict with Rhodey and the government in general. You have Gary Shandling as the bad senator. Just so many people to keep track of. You know, so I didn't think that was that. I think that's kind of where it goes wrong. But other stuff again, and plus you have the whole sub story with him and his father. Now he's got the issues with his dad, and the daddy issues get resolved neatly when he finds the video, the old film strip. Where again, and I kind of thought that was a little too convenient. Like, he's got a film strip where, you know, Tony, get out of there, get out from back there, put that down, go, where's your mother? Go, you know, get out of here. And then 2 seconds later, he looks at the camera, Tony, like now, like a totally different person. Tony, you're my greatest invention. All the things, you know, I'm limited by the technology of my time, but you're my greatest invention ever. Like, it's like a totally different guy. And I was like, boy, that's awful convenient for a guy that's here going through this stuff, looking for this secret to something or other. And the idea that, that on rewatch, I kind of didn't quite get it when I first saw it. And I've seen it a couple times, but I hadn't seen it in a while. But I watched it again this weekend. Watching him with the thing with the map and how the map of the park was laid out. And that was somehow the clue. And I'll tell you something. I hate movies that... it really bugs me when a film... When one character leaves a clue for another character, that bugs me. Spectre is riddled with that. The last James Bond film, Spectre, where you have people leaving clues for James Bond. Wait a second. But if you want someone to know something, you don't leave them a clue. You'll just tell them. You know what I mean? Letting somebody find a clue is one thing, but an intentional clue is weird. I don't quite get that. So the idea that the park was really the diagram of essentially the element that he was trying to create, that to me was I can't say I'm going to buy that one. That really didn't make a lot of sense. And plus, incidentally, the other backstory is Tony drinking too much. Now, I get that he was an alcoholic in the comics. I understand that this was a big backstory subplot from the comics. So they're trying to pay it some mind here by him just sort of drinking his face off at a party. That scene was a little weird. I like the party scene where he gets drunk and starts shooting the bottles, and then him and Rhodey end up in a fight. I don't know. That one kind of left me a little.
That felt like a check. That felt like something to be checked off on a checklist.
I guess so. Like I said, I mean, and they're not full blown calling him an alcoholic necessarily. They just show him one time getting drunk and stupid. So they touch at it. You know what I mean? They don't like it. I kind of felt like that's one. If you're gonna do it, then do it. If not, don't. You know.
I think they could have dropped the entire Palladium subplot and just stuck with the alcoholism as the motivation throughout the flick. The burden. The reason that he's turning to alcohol more often is that he plays it fast and loose, like, oh yeah, I privatized world peace and stuff like that, but inside he's like, fuck, this is a huge amount of responsibility. Which also could have been a great way to lead into the fact that he needs help and needs the Avengers.
Yeah, which is fine. Again, like I said, I mean, but it just it kind of pops up out of nowhere again. Like again, we just came off the original Iron Man. In the last frame, he's on the top of his game, and where he's standing up in front of everybody, and he's like, "Yeah, I am Iron Man," because he's having fun with it. He's loving it. Yeah, I did it. Come throw rose petals at me, worship me for my accomplishments. I mean, he's having a ball. So I kind of felt like it was too early to get into that. Frankly, again, by Iron Man 3, that's post Avengers, where he says something about how he's having nightmares or whatever. That was probably the time to get into the booze, not Iron Man 2. You know, when I'm as far as I can tell, he's on top of his game. He hasn't really screwed anything up yet, and there hasn't really been any big threat so far. So I don't really see why they would kind of hint at the booze part. Yeah, it was just too soon. Don't bother with that.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of fan service. There was a little bit of trying to cram. I feel like Favreau, if Favreau had been left to his devices like he was with the first one, we would have had a much better movie. Because Favreau can tell a story. I felt like the first half of this flick was amazing. I was really enjoying myself. I was like, wow, okay. Last week I was describing to people how I felt like Iron Man 2 was worse than Iron Man 3. And as I'm watching this first half, I was saying to myself, actually, this is not bad. This is going somewhere. This could really go somewhere great. It's the second half that kind of diminishes everything that they had started in the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, it does sort of feel that they didn't know where to go with it, I think. I mean, it has this feel like they weren't sure how to tie up the loose ends. I mean, and again, like the alcohol part, I think, frankly, was probably really, aside from the fan service, I guess that was the way to get Rhodey into the outfit. You needed somehow to kind of hurry up to get Rhodey into the Iron Man outfit. How are we going to do that? He's not going to just steal it on his own for no reason, you know. And unless he didn't seem like he was really ambitious. Like Tony, come on, let me have a costume, you know. So I guess this was the way to do it. To say Tony's irresponsible. He's acting like a jerk. I'm going to take his other outfit and settle him down or whatever.
Yeah, but I also think they could have done it in a different way than they did. You know, and they over dramatized it instead of making it personal. This was supposed to be that fight. The fight, I guess, should have happened. This is supposed to be two guys. These are good friends. You know, they trust each other. And to Rhodey, him being this reckless is a breach of that trust. So Rhodey's anger is there. Tony's just fighting for completely different reasons. He just wants to fucking fight. I think they could have brought that fight. That fight should have been almost as heartbreaking, or at least as heart-tugging, as the fight between Tony and Cap by Civil War. And that's the thing that was missing. They didn't really build up. They had throwaway lines of Rhodey explaining how this was affecting him and how he stuck his neck out for him.
Yeah.
But we never really saw a demonstration of how Tony being this way was detrimental. You know, we kind of needed to hate Tony a little bit to be kind of on Rhodey's side in that fight. Because otherwise it looked like they were both just being petulant childs.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, because I kind of felt like on one hand, this is supposed to make Rhodey seem so much like he's the responsible one and Tony's the clown, at least for now. I kind of felt like it doesn't really make Rhodey look that good either necessarily. I kind of felt like, I kind of felt like he comes off like he's kind of a little too anxious to throw down and scrap and pretty much destroy the house. It takes two to tango. I felt like there's a good, hey, let's take the fight someplace else. I don't know. I don't think Rhodey comes off that good. And honestly, that's another reason why I wish we had Terrence Howard from the first one. Because again, now this fight is an escalation of. We should know that they're friends before we see them fight. So I feel like if Terrence Howard was here and he was the one, then you'd say, okay, he's really put up with a lot. You saw him put up with a lot in the first one, and he understands Tony better than anybody. This one, it just kind of makes it seem like Rhodey's a real stick in the mud, and he's gonna, he's gonna put a stop to Tony's fun. I don't know. It doesn't pay off as well as it could have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. The whole movie feels like little missteps. Like, for whatever reason, trying to satisfy a larger narrative outside of that one movie just doesn't work. That's what this movie showed. And weirdly, I think Marvel actually learned their lesson because they stopped doing shit like that from the Avengers forward. They referenced things that happened, but never really made a big deal out of it from that point forward. This was their stumbling block. This was the thing that could have derailed them if it hadn't been for the fact that Disney basically just gave them billions of dollars and said, "You're building a universe, keep building."
Well, and I've heard people say that this does feel like filler until Avengers, and I hate to agree with that, but it does have that vibe sometimes. It really does. It feels like,
But there were so many moments where you felt like Favreau and everybody else felt like they were doing something great. And then for whatever reason, it was like, ugh, now we got to do this. Let's just phone this part in. That's what it felt like.
It does. Because it feels like they know Avengers are coming. They're leading up to it, so they don't want to do anything that's really going to impact that story. Like basically they said, look, we're working on the Avengers story. You guys do Iron Man 2, but don't do anything that's going to really affect us. You know what I mean? Don't affect the bigger story. Try to keep it contained and keep it, just over there. Yeah, Nick Fury can come and say hello. You want to introduce Black Widow? Fine. That's fine. But just don't tell us too much about her, because we're going to get that over here, and let's not cross our lines at all. So yeah, it kind of feels a little limiting in that way. Again, as opposed to something like Civil War, where it's all-encompassing and it is very much taking into account the other things that are happening all over the place. This one feels confined, like it's trying not to bump into and get any signals crossed with what other films are doing and what the Avengers is going to do and all this other stuff. So it's almost like it's almost like the I know you said that this was sort of the beginning of the new way they were doing films. It kind of feels like they haven't gotten it down yet. So they were saying, don't go too crazy with this, because we don't know what's going on over here. We haven't planned that yet. And so you just do a little Iron Man movie. And you keep it to yourselves. You can do this and do that, but just don't go crazy.
Maybe. I think that they hadn't figured out exactly how to make it work in a coherent way as of yet. I think my to me, the interesting thing will be not now, if I live that long. God, I hope I live that long. I want to live long enough for the tell-all book that's going to come out about this 15 to 20 years from now.
Now that you mention that, I agree with you. I think that'd be pretty wild.
I get the feeling, because after Civil War happened, that's the Civil War movie, that's when the TV division and the creative group that I talked about at the beginning of this went off, and now they're just doing the TV side of things, and Feige has basically kept the cinematic universe. And I gotta tell you, good for the cinematic universe, because I said last week I liked Iron Fist, certainly not in love with Iron Fist, and I find that their TV offerings are uneven as opposed to their movie offerings.
It's funny you said that too, because I saw a couple other reviews since we talked about it. I still haven't seen it yet, because I'm still behind. I'm still doing Jessica Jones at this point. Still watching Jessica Jones, excuse me. And yeah, the criticism I heard that pretty much seemed pretty unanimous was that the show that should have had the best martial arts fighting ends up having the weakest, and that's kind of a shame. Obviously they didn't have the time, training, or whatever to really amp up the martial arts fighting in this, and again, this one should have had the best.
It showed in some cases.
Yeah.
But yes, Iron Man 2, all in all, I'm going to have to rescind my review from the previous week. I no longer think of it as the worst Iron Man, but when I do the rewatch of Iron Man 3, I'll come up with a better gist. But I definitely remember, I definitely remembered it worse than it actually was. I actually found myself enjoying it a lot. I thought, Downey was great. I thought Mickey Rourke was fucking phenomenal, and I kind of want to see the movie that got filmed but never made it to screen with him, because I get the feeling he came in and he was like, this is good, because I read interviews with him. It's like, yeah, I researched Russian criminals and shit like that, and their tattoos and everything like that, and tried to make their tattoos look authentic and so on and so forth. Fucker went deep into that goddamn character, so you gotta figure there had to be something more of substance there. And then after, when the final movie came out, he was kind of like, fuck Marvel. So yes, it's true. Yeah, I get the feeling he was sold on one thing and maybe even filmed everything one way, and then when the movie came out, he's like, what the fuck happened with this? What the fuck happened with that? You talk about the bird. The bird probably had a big fucking thing, instead it made him look like a fucking idiot. Where's my bird? I want my bird,
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I do. It feels like there was more of a plan with that, and that we never saw it. Because again, there was, I don't know, it was a little frustrating. Again, I feel like he was the villain. He was the villain I wanted to see. And incidentally, this is kind of, I don't want to, maybe I shouldn't say it because I don't want to tip my hat already when we talk about Iron Man 3, but similarly in Iron Man 3, I didn't get the villain I wanted. And I kind of felt like that's the problem here too, is like, there was a build up for this villain, and the payoff, it wasn't quite there. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, this was the movie that pretty much started having people say that Marvel has a villain problem.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. And it's frustrating too, because again, I liked how they sort of, it's again, both personas sort of had their own villain. Iron Man had his villain, and Tony Stark had his villain. I thought, now that was smart. I like what they were doing with that. I thought the Sam Rockwell part was great, because I thought, again, he's a guy, he's always competing with Tony, he's probably always the second guy or second tier, and he's always trying to be cool like Tony, and it doesn't work, he's acting like a jerk when he's on stage, and everybody's, I thought that was awesome. Like, the part when he's on stage, and he's doing the big presentation, and he's like, Army, Navy, and you see him kind of dancing around, and the arms are flailing out and everything, like, that was great. I thought, like, again, he really knew exactly how to take that. Like, he was, again, guy thinks he's cool, but he's not. Like, I don't know. I just thought he really nailed that. So, again, the stuff with Mickey Rourke, I'm saying to myself, this should have been awesome. Even the original fight where he shows up, I remember thinking to myself, like, he takes out a couple cars and he's doing this and that. And then when Iron Man gets into his suit, it doesn't take long before he's got him on the ground and he yanks the reactor out of his suit, out of Mickey Rourke's suit, and he's behind bars. I remember thinking, like, that seemed so easy that I was kind of waiting for like a Jokerish kind of a situation where he wanted to get arrested, and because his bigger plan is coming up, and you know what I mean, like this was all part of his plan all along.
Well, actually, he explained himself pretty clearly in the jail cell. Would he want to have killed Tony? Sure, absolutely. But he even said to him, it's like, didn't have to kill you. I made a god bleed.
Which is fine.
It puts blood in the water and sharks will come. And he was right. What happened after that? Frickin' Hammer found his testicles.
What I saw you do to Tony Stark on that track, wow. You need my resources. I want to make Iron Man look like an antique.
But, here's the other side of the coin. The original thing was, Jon Favreau was supposed to direct the Avengers. He was supposed to write and direct the Avengers. It was after this movie that he decided he didn't want to do the directing. I imagine that this experience soured him to Marvel, and that's why he didn't do it.
Nor does he do Iron Man 3 either.
Nope, he was in it, but he definitely didn't direct it. Although, I gotta tell you, going back to my original story about the creative committee, it's funny that when it was revealed that the creative committee on the Marvel Cinematic Universe side of things was disbanded, that suddenly Favreau said, hey, you know what, if Marvel ever wanted me back, I'd come back. It's like, so you like working with Feige, but you don't like working with everybody else. Got it.
Oh, okay.
So who knows? He may still come back.
It would be nice to see him back, because, he is a solid director. I tell you, he's a guy, I remember I can remember watching the earliest. I remember watching Swingers at your apartment. And for some reason, I had a really crummy copy on VHS and even the tracking was off. And it wouldn't fix itself. It wouldn't correct itself throughout the entire film.
Yeah.
But you and I sat and watched the entire thing because the story was so good. We kind of just, we didn't even notice the tracking problems anymore. But the whole thing was so good. We were, So, yeah, anyway, since then, I mean, I've been really kind of excited watching his career, blossom as it has. And again, he's no slouch. He really can do a solid. I mean, who would have thought he would have done? That was one of the first big budget superhero films that I can really remember, frankly. I mean, there's been others. There's been others that have had solid budgets, but that was like the first one, again, the first one of the Marvel. That one was so good that I think it created the Marvel Universe, and it... See, my theory has always been that they did Iron Man because, the technology now is sort of matching up with what we can probably sell realistically on screen. So somebody said, let's do Iron Man. And as they're going along, they're like, you know what? I can see a whole flipping universe out of this. And somebody came in at the end and said, get Sam Jackson. We're throwing him in at the end and we're going to do something cool and see where it goes. I mean, seriously, how many years was it that we were just waiting for the Avengers movie from that?
Well, let's see. Iron Man came out in 2008, and I think the Avengers came out, I want to say 2010, 2011, 2 or 3 years. 2012? Really? Was it that long?
And Iron Man was what?
I'm pretty sure Iron Man was 2008. It might have been 2009, though. I'm not sure now. Hold on. Yep, 2008. 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, I remember it being a pretty lengthy period of time that we were like, oh my god, they're going to do an Avengers movie? Are you kidding? And then, then little by little, the Captain America and Thor and everything, and,
Iron Man 2 was 2010. Incredible Hulk was... Hold on. Incredible Hulk was also 2008. And then you had Thor after that. Thor was 2011. And then Cap was late 2011. And then 2012 was the Avengers. Wow. How far they've come.
Yeah. So it's pretty amazing. I mean, like I said, it was...
Well, I hope Favreau does come back. Because I think that he has a story. Like, I have this personal theory that because of the nature of the Infinity Gauntlet, which is the big thing with the Infinity War, that the end of that here's one of two ways you could possibly do it. Have Iron Man die, and then that's the end of it. But I don't know. That could be kind of weird. That would, how do you recast Robert Downey Jr.? My personal feeling is that one of the stones is called the Reality Stone, and just like it implies, it can alter reality. My thing was the best way to recast the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe is just have the Reality Stone go off and be like, oh, nope, here we are. We're just different looking people now because reality was altered.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, if you get whoever they wound up picking to be the new young Tony Stark, hey, Favreau, come back and start this new Iron Man with this new Iron Man. That I would like to see.
I hope you're ready.
Come on!
Overall, what's your feeling on Iron Man 2?
Not as bad as I remembered, but still not good. It still is hindered by a lot of plotting a lot of over-plotting is the best way I can describe it. Just, they had a very strong start. They had a very compelling villain. Like you said, the idea of the dichotomy of the attacks. You've got Hammer attacking him as a business. You've got Vanko attacking him as Iron Man. That's a great way of really kind of upping the stakes. But then there was no payoff for any of that. There was no real payoff for any of that. It was an exciting conclusion. It had an exciting ending. It was very action-packed and stuff. It was great to have War Machine finally come in, but a lot of it didn't feel earned. So, middling is the best way I can describe it. It's the middle of a trilogy. It's a middling story.
I'm probably going to be a little more generous than that. I feel like, overall, I would call it a solid, good film. It's not great. The first Iron Man was a great film. Really hit all the marks correctly. Terrific characters, modernized the origin story perfectly, and gave him a logical villain, which, and it was simple and to the point, and it got the job done. This one, yes, it meanders, it wanders, it seems like it's not sure where it wants to go. But when you're sitting there watching this film, again, I don't think for 1 minute you're gonna say, I'm not entertained, I'm not into this. Definitely missteps, and again, that middle scene in the donut shop definitely seems awkward. And it seems awkward and odd. And I'm sure, like we talked about, I'm sure there are probably stories behind why that happened and how the story kind of evolved to where it was. There's probably a better film in there someplace that we will not see. But all in all, it's a good follow-up. Like I said, when I watch the two back to back, I don't suddenly go, this is not as good. I'm watching it all the way through, and I'm excited by all of it. The climax is phenomenal. When they're flying around and the drones are chasing them and all this other stuff, that's good. Really good stuff. So for what it is and for what it needed to be at the time, like I said, I have a feeling that they couldn't get into too much crazy stuff. But you had the introduction of Black Widow, of War Machine, and I really think it's a solid film. Not as good as the first one, but definitely pretty good. And like I said, I won't skip ahead, but when I rewatch Iron Man 3, I'll be curious to see how I feel about it, which one's better, 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I'm kind of, I'm only semi-looking forward to it, but I am looking forward to it.
So, anyway.
I don't think there's much else to say about that. We're in sync. As always, we usually, well, not always, we're not always in sync, but we tend to find good middle ground, like this movie.
Yeah, I don't think we're too far off. I mean, I think if we had to give this a numerical score, we'd probably be within 2 digits, I would guess.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah. All right, then I guess that'll about do it. That is Justice League trailer and Iron Man 2.
Oh, I think the Justice League trailer definitely improved Iron Man 2 in my eyes. All right, well, good night, everybody.
We'll see you next week with Iron Man 3. Have a great week. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Join us here every Thursday for a new episode. And be sure to check out the Reviews Without Remorse channel on YouTube and VidMe for spoiler-free reviews of new releases, as well as in-depth discussions of current and classic cinema. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider becoming a patron. You can find our page at patreon.com. As little as $1 a month goes a long way. All clips in this podcast are used for commentary and critique, and is considered fair use. No copyright infringement is intended.